Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to crack wide open something I like to call the yeah but mystery. It's this absolutely fascinating framework from Thomas Alethea's book, 12 Steps to a Good Life. And trust me, it's going to completely change the way you look at your daily interactions.
Okay, let's dive right into this. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Have you ever been stuck in one of those yeah but conversations? Picture this. A friend or maybe a coworker comes to you with a problem. Maybe it's a work issue, a relationship thing, whatever. They're asking for your advice. So naturally, you offer what seems like the perfect, obvious solution. And what do they say? Yeah, but I just don't have the time for that. Okay, you pause, you pivot, and you offer another idea. Yeah, but my boss would literally hate that. It is such a universally frustrating experience. They're asking for help, but they're shooting down every single lifeline you throw at them.
And here's what that endless looping dynamic actually looks like. Hey, try this. Yeah, but, okay, well, how about this? Yeah, but it's maddening. It completely drains your energy, it kills any sense of teamwork, and honestly, it makes you want to pull your hair out. You walk away feeling confused, a little irritated, and totally ineffective. You're left standing there thinking, why did you even ask for my help if you didn't want it? Well, as Athea points out in his book, the truth is, you aren't actually having the conversation you think you're having.
So the crucial point here, the big psychological reveal, is something called transactional analysis. When you get caught in that yeah but loop, you are not having a rational adult-to-adult conversation. Not at all. Your interaction has been unconsciously hijacked. Transactional analysis basically explains that we all possess these distinct ego states. They're different versions of ourselves that we unconsciously shift between when we're communicating. Without even realizing it, you and your friend just slipped into a completely different psychological dynamic.
Let's break down what those states actually are. We've got three primary ego states: the parent, the adult, and the child. But here's the truly mind-blowing part that Aletheia really emphasizes. These aren't just, abstract psychological concepts or cute metaphors. No, these are actual, physical, neural pathways that literally exist in your brain. We slide in and out of these three modes constantly throughout our day, and we don't even notice. Depending on who we're talking to or what triggers us, a different neural pathway lights up, and boom, suddenly we're operating from a totally different set of behaviors and emotions.
To really get a grip on this, Aletheia uses this brilliant metaphor. Think of Russian matryoshka dolls. You know, the ones that stack inside each other? These ego states are incredibly complex, and they're nested deeply inside of us, just like those dolls. You might walk around thinking you're just one unified personality, but inside, you're carrying the echoes of your childhood, the voices of your caregivers, and your present-day rational mind all stacked up. When someone pushes your buttons, one of those inner dolls just pops out to handle the situation. And, spoiler alert, it might not be the rational, grown-up version of you. So the first of these is the parent state. When you're in the parent ego state, you're unconsciously mirroring the authority figures from your own past, your parents, your teachers, whoever raised you. But notice, this state has a bit of a split personality of its own. On one hand, you might step into the critical parent. This is the bossy, rigid, severe, fault-finding side. But on the other hand, you might shift into the nurturing parent. This is the gentle, warm, forgiving, and sometimes overly helpful side. Just think about how often you suddenly hear your mother or father's voice coming out of your mouth when you're giving someone advice. Yep, that's your parent neural pathway lighting up.
Now let's contrast that with the child ego state. When this pathway activates, you unconsciously revert back to the behaviors and feelings from your own youth. And just like the parent, the child state has two sides. You've got the free child, that's the wonderful, spontaneous, super energetic, uninhibited part of you. But then there's the adapted child. This is the part of us that gets anxious, complains, gets super defensive, or acts dependent. It's literally the part of us that learned how to adapt to the adults around us just to survive or get attention when we were little kids.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how this perfectly cracks our yeah but mystery wide open. Let's map those ego states right onto that annoying conversation we talked about earlier. Step 1. Your friend isn't actually coming to you as a rational adult. They've unconsciously slipped into their adapted child state, playing helpless. Step 2. Seeing them in distress triggers your nurturing parent state. You swoop right in to save the day with advice. Step 3. The child rejects the advice with a yeah but. Why? Because if they solved the problem, the interaction would end. They reject the solution just to keep the nurturing parent's attention locked onto them, and boom, the loop begins.
Which brings us to the ultimate aha moment of this whole explainer. Alethea hits the nail on the head here. He says, the conversation has shifted from problem solving to an unconscious personal interaction. That person rejecting your advice, they do not actually want a solution. No way. They just want continuous emotional attention. They want the warmth and the focus of a nurturing parent. And because neither of you realizes you've slipped into this weird psychological role play, the conversation just repeats over and over and over. You're desperately trying to fix a problem, but they're just trying to feel cared for.
Okay, so how do we actually break this exhausting loop? We have to bring in the third ego state, the adult. Alert, capable, clear thinking, logical, precise, realistic, unemotional. The adult state is totally grounded in the present moment. It's incredibly efficient. It doesn't carry all the heavy emotional baggage of the past like the child does, and it doesn't try to control or coddle like the parent. When you're in the adult state, you're just looking at the facts, evaluating your options, and making sound decisions without getting swept away by anyone's hidden emotional agenda.
Let's move forward and see how this builds into an actual practical solution. To break the yeah but loop, or honestly, any frustrating, repetitive conversation, you have to consciously anchor yourself in this adult state. When you notice someone playing the adapted child, desperately pulling for your nurturing parent, you've got to recognize the game. Take a deep breath, stay right in the present, and simply refuse to play the parent. Instead of offering endless solutions that you know are just going to be rejected, you might say something like, "Wow, that does sound like a really tough situation. What do you think your next step should be?" See what happened there? By responding as an adult, you invite them to step up into their adult state too. That is how you break the unconscious loop.
So, I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Which ego state is driving your conversation today? Seriously, the next time you find yourself getting incredibly frustrated, or maybe you're acting a bit too bossy, or feeling inexplicably defensive, I challenge you to just pause, look in the mirror. Are you an adult in the present moment, or has an unconscious parent or child just grabbed the steering wheel? Recognizing this is absolutely crucial. Awareness is the first real step to transforming your relationships. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and until next time, keep analyzing those interactions.